Hey guys, so it's been a while since I last uploaded, like a month, because I've been waiting a while for a couple things to arrive, being all of these guys. You know, I already had Freddy and Bonnie, you know, thanks to my friend Isaac Illustrates, but then I was also waiting for Foxy, Golden Freddy, and Chica, you know, because, you know, these guys are really hard to get, and, you know, I already explained the whole thing about scalpers and everything in my last video. And then I had, like, majority of Wave 2 of the plushies arrive, and I'm having Foxy come in Tuesday, so expect, like, a mini review on the Wave 1 plushies. Unfortunately, I was unable to get Nightmarion at the time, so there's no review on Nightmarion, but I'm sure there's a video on him, in, someone else's videos. But then there's also the factor of I need to get Mangle and Balloon Boy, and that's about it. I have Lefty for Wave 2's review, but I just don't have Mangle or Balloon Boy. Anyways, we're here to review Wave 2 of the Five Nights at Freddy's World Of series. Now, there's a lot of flack going around for Wave 2, more than Wave 1. It's more or less how they really, you know, handle the characters. You know, I don't have any issues with them, but we're going to go over them, and I'm going to list the issues people have, which obviously, you know, people are going to criticize Jazwares more than, you know, Funko, because a lot of controversies and everything else. I mean, rightfully so, but, like, that contributes nothing to the merch itself. Anyways, let's get into this thing. Alright, so just like last video, we're gonna go over Freddy. You know, instead of the last video, it was Toy Freddy, but now we have Classic Freddy. Now, Classic Freddy, I feel like, is well handled, so far. People will criticize he's very orange. I will say he is slightly more orange than, you know, like a Classic Freddy should. But that's really not an issue for me, to be honest. Like, when you really look into this figure, you see all of how he looks. He looks a lot better than how Funko looked. I already did, like, a review with my Toy Freddy review. I went over how the Funko version of Toy Freddy wasn't even Toy Freddy. It was VR Toy Freddy. But Jazwares' Toy Freddy looked a lot better than Funko's. And that's the same case here. Paint-wise, you know, he's pretty decent, I will say. People wish that they had a dirt wash, but to be honest, I'm not gonna go into, like, a whole depth on why, these guys don't really have a dirt wash, but it does contribute to, there's probably a factor of Scott, the animatronics in FNaF aren't even dirty. That's probably just how they look like with fur, because, you know, it is Scott and his Cloud Spec obsession, but overall, you know, this figure is pretty solid. His jump scare, you know, he comes with a microphone, which is a pretty nice, you know, feature, I'd say. The other characters don't come with accessories, except Golden Freddy, and we're gonna go over Golden Freddy, because I, of course, have him. But he's just Freddy, but yellow. But we're still gonna go over him, because it's Golden Freddy, and, you know, we gotta go over him. For the jump scare, you know, obviously the button on the back, he's handled pretty well, I'd say, for the jump scare. And, you know, articulation, pretty decent. Now, these guys have a lot better articulation than, you know, they have their issues, but, you know, if you get it right, you can have Freddy hold up his microphone like this. There we go. You can have Freddy hold up his mic, which is pretty okay. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a jump scare figure. You're not really supposed to have him like this anyways. You're always supposed to have him, you know, arms down. Otherwise you have, you know, this issue. So he looks like he's about to punch you in the face with his microphone, like he's about to perform like a mic toss in FNAF World. Also, sorry if I snip a little bit. I'm a little sick. You know, pollen. It's spring now, which for some reason it's still cold outside. You know, Georgia weather. It's a little odd. Also, if you notice, I'm a little bit different from my last video. It's because, you know, how my room is set up in my house, obviously. I have this tiny little space where I put my PC, and for me to record, I have to move that PC somewhere else. And my last video, the PC was over here, but I moved it to the other side of the table where I was recording last time. So I didn't feel like going through all the hassle of moving all my PC again, just so I can record in one spot. So from now on, when I do review videos, it's going to be right here. Anyways, let's get on to Bonnie, because he's what I want to talk about the most. And as you can see here, we have our blue rabbit Bonnie. Believe it or not, Bonnie is actually a rabbit. I did not know this up until like a couple months back. I looked at his copyright. His name is Bonnie the Rabbit. For me, it was always Bonnie the Bunny. But no, that was more or less a fan thing. Anyways, enough about Bonnie's legal name. And, you know, Bonnie here, you know, he's more blue than he was in on his Endo series figure. I don't know if I can... I don't have it. You know, I really should, but I mean, I have it, but he's not out of box. I don't feel like getting him out of the box either. Anyways, more of this guy. You know, people really do not like this figure, and rightfully so, because, you know, Bonnie, the way Jazwares has handled Bonnie, he's a little ugly. But then again, Bonnie has never really looked good when it comes to action figures. His action figures have always been a little finicky, but I think Jazwares has done it, you know, a little bit better than Funko ever did. They did give him more teeth than he really should, but that's just like less of a nitpick and just more of just like a preference, I guess. I don't know. For Bonnie, you know, he's pretty standard as always, and just, you know, you got the jump scare feature. He's blue. He's very blue, which is what you come to expect with new FNAF merch. Is Bonnie is going to be blue instead of purple. Which, you know, is just a new thing Scott is pushing. Is that Bonnie should just be purple. I mean blue, not purple. It's just like a new thing with the FNAF movie is doing. Because of the FNAF movie, they're making Bonnie more blue. Alright, yeah. So, yeah, that's Bonnie. Of course. It's Bonnie. I mean, what more could you really expect out of a Bonnie figure? Except, you know, it's Bonnie. I mean... yeah, let's get on to Chica. Alright, so here's Chica. You know, she's also pretty standard, just like Bonnie. She's much better than Funkos. I will say, these figures, when it comes to all of it, they're a lot better than Funkos. They're just more animatronic-like. They're more accurate to how they are in the games. They actually have eyes, you know, not the just stupid little white dots. Well, not white dots, like colored dots in the eyes. Anyways, here's Chica. Chica, unlike, you know, Freddy and Bonnie, has flat hands. So it was most likely going to be a thing, or is still going to be a thing, that Chica is going to have an accessory. I know Aaron, the old branch manager for Jazwares, talked about accessory packs, maybe. I don't remember, but I think that's something he wanted to do. Which is not too far off of what they actually do at Jazwares, is accessory packs. Anyways, for Chica, you know, flat hands, very strange. You can definitely tell this is FNAF movie based because the paws like the paw prints, or like paw pads. There we go. That's the word. I know they have them on the actual in-game models, but it's more prominent on the FNAF movie models than, you know, in-game models. Anyways, for Chica, she has a very long beak. Like, it is insane how long her beak is. But, I don't know. Maybe it's a standard that Chica should have a long beak. I know she doesn't have it on her in-game model. So, anyways, it's also very pointy. Like, I know it's like, it's not gonna be like, why does it hurt me? But it's like, it's still very pointy. Anyways, this is, you know, she actually has a lot better of like a jump scare feature than Bonnie does. Sometimes the jump scare feature can be a little bit finicky. The jaws don't open too well with them. But like, I don't know. But Chica's opens just fine. Because, you know, it's Chica. Articulation-wise, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, all these guys still have, like, the basic articulation and the legs and, you know, everything. They do have a lot more stiffer joints than the toy animatronic figures. My toy Freddy is a little loose around the kneecaps, but that's alright. But yeah, that's Chica. Of course, the button, everything. The bib goes around, all the way around. Then, you know, I don't think the Toy Chica figure has that. No, she does. Sorry. Of course, you know, it goes all the way around. I don't think Funko ever did that. Of course, I haven't had a Funko Chica for the past, you know, 10 years. But yeah, that's Chica. You know, can't ever go wrong with a Chica figure. Well, I mean, up until, you know, Liberty Chica, FNAF 1 Chica, all the Chicas that Funko ever made. Anyways, but yeah, that's Chica. Let's get on to Foxy. Here's Foxy. Alright, so Foxy is a figure I've heard a lot of gripe for. And, you know, it's because of the silver. In all of the withering and gaps, it's silver paint. Which, you know, I don't think it's much of an issue. I think people are just a bit nitpicky. Like, honestly. With Foxy, you know, his hook is articulated. Everything is articulated on this figure. As always, as you come to expect with these figures, they have pretty decent articulation. The only thing that is not articulated is, you know, the waist, which, I mean, no FNAF figure has ever had an articulated waist. And the head. Now, the head isn't much of an issue because, you know, the jump scare feature, which I think it's a good sacrifice for, you know, these figures. Let's be honest here. When you display these figures, you're not posing them as, like, it's insane, like, posing. Every single time a FNAF animatronic is shown on camera, they're facing either one direction away from it, or facing at it, or facing up at it. Either way, it's not much of an issue with the no head articulation or whatever. Now, with Foxy here, he comes with the left door. He comes with the left door of the Office set. We're gonna review the Office because that thing is too cool to not review. But, you know, here's Foxy. He's pretty standard, as always. A very strange thing is that his pants, I don't know if I was going to catch it on camera, they're like a very dark red. I'd say they're like a similar red to his ears. It's like his third color red. Like, they put his ears and his eyelids. It's weird that they didn't use brown because, you know, they did use brown in a Zendo series figure. But either way, you know, it's a pretty standard animatronic figure. You know, you can hit some funny poses. Maybe. Or you can make him, or you can give him like a running pose. Like this. Which, honestly, it makes it look like he's, you know, screaming in agony, but, you know, it's fine. Anyways, let's get on to our third and final figure, Golden Freddy. Alright, so here is Golden Freddy. Now, with Golden Freddy, you know, he's just your standard repaint of Freddy. But, you know, it's Golden Freddy. I mean, what more do you expect to come out of a Golden Freddy figure other than it's just a Freddy recolor? But the strange thing is about Golden Freddy here is that he's very yellow, which, I mean, is pretty standard. I mean, well, Funko did him a very, like, cleaner yellow. But with Golden Freddy here, he also doesn't have any endo, like, snippets in his joints, like, you know, the other animatronics have. Like Freddy here, you know, the little gray segments in them. Now, that's not much of an issue, again. I mean, it would be better to have, because otherwise he's just all the way yellow. Anyways, his jump scare feature, you know, like I said, some of the times these figures are a little bit finicky, so he doesn't have that much stronger of a jaw function, like Freddy does. As you can see, their jaws do not open the same. But that also could be an attribute of my Golden Freddy having a very finicky, like, his mechanism's a little bit finicky right now. Let me see if I can, like, no, okay. Even if I put his arms forward, it's still not gonna work as right. But with Golden Freddy here, something you can't do with Funkos, you can make him do his like, iconic sit, sort of. I mean, it's more or less just he's sitting. But, you know, it's better than nothing, right? You can't do the sit with Funko's figure. Even they can't even do the sit with Funko's figure, because, you know, with how Scott poses these guys, you can't really get these guys to sit. But, you know, he sits. He's Golden Freddy. I mean, it's just Golden Freddy. Like, there's nothing much more to this guy except he's just yellow Freddy. He's just a yellow Freddy figure. Nothing more, nothing less. That's about it. Let's get on to that office that I was talking about. So here's the FNaF 1 office. You know, you might be wondering, why on earth would it be so important to make an office piece for action figures that jump scare? Well, that's because it's just cool, okay? You know, it's the office. Why would you not want a office set that, you know, doesn't come with, you know, why would you want action figures that wouldn't come with the office? Now, when it comes to these figures, you know, 3 figures come with, you know, a different piece of the office. Let's go ahead and put them with, you know, who went with what. Golden Freddy went with the middle piece. As you can see, you have slits all the way, you know, between these pieces. Foxy came with the right door, and Chica came with the left. Okay, I don't know my rights to lefts. Switch that around. Foxy came with the left door, Chica came with the right door. Whoops. Anyways. With these doors, by the way, you press down on these buttons, and boom, they come right down on the animatronics. You know, if you ever so wanted to, while you're playing with your office, you can have Chica, I don't know, come in to the office, fall over for some reason, and you can pull a Fredbear and Friends Reborn or whatever. I honestly forget what it's called. You can slam down Chica, the door on top of Chica, like Spring Bonnie in that one fan game that I just mentioned. I completely butchered it, by the way, but, you know, oh well. Anyways, let's go ahead and get these guys out of here, because, you know, it doesn't really matter that they're here. I just wanted to tell who came with what. But, you know, the doors, they're pretty standard. You know, they lock in whenever you flip them up, and then you press down the bottom button here. You can't, whenever you press down on the top button, nothing happens. You know, you can't really do much with that. But when you press down, I think it only, yeah, okay. So when you press down on the door, you can't lift it. But when you press up, there you go. Anyways, these slam down pretty hard. When it comes to these pieces, they are pretty heavy duty here. They slam down. Let's put Freddy in this window. Because, of course, you can see figures through, the very musky windows. For some reason, it's not like a filter or anything, They're just very musky. I don't know what it is, but, they just are. Decoration-wise, I will say, it's pretty nice. You have your kids' drawings, your Celebrate poster from the FNaF movie, because Bonnie's guitar. You can always tell this is the poster from the FNaF movie because Bonnie's guitar is different. And your camera monitors, for some reason, they have cameras on them, even though they're black in the movie. I mean, the game. That's a FNaF 2 camera, FNaF 3. Actually, that might be the Bonnie hallway camera. FNaF 1 again, FNaF 1, but he's dead in there. That's a FNaF 1 camera, I believe. I don't remember what it is exactly. That is a FNaF 1 camera. That's a FNaF 3 camera. But yeah, that's pretty much the office. You have little bits out here for your animatronics to stand on. Nothing all the way around. That's pretty much it with the office. You can actually fit both waves, wave 1 and wave 2 in here. Let me go ahead and do that. There's a pretty decent amount of space in here. You can really, cram in all these guys up here. Oh yeah, there's that guy. Review coming soon on that. You can really cram in all these guys. You can't fit Mangle in here, obviously, but you can really cram them all in here if you really ever so wanted to. That's really it. I will say this wave, pretty solid. The next wave is the Wizards, and I'm interested to see what's coming next for that. We've already got pre-orders up on GameStop, which is pretty neat. Anyways, oh my god, that was a voice crack. Anyways, that's about it. I recommend picking you guys these guys up if you really ever so wanted to. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, if you don't want to, but, I would really recommend it if you can even get your hands on it. It's pretty difficult to even find these guys, let alone, buying them. It was a battle to get Foxy here. I mean, a battle. Chica and Golden Freddy went up on pre-order, and I bought Freddy and Bonnie off a friend. And then, of course, the toy animatronics. The toys, they go up pretty frequently, especially Toy Freddy. The FNaF Restock server call him the Chud, because he's always going up on pre-order. Anyways, that's about it. I recommend it. Go ahead and pick it up. Do what you want, or don't. Who knows? Anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.